everyone, here we are for another edition of Chris Rankin's Music Crush. I'm going to be doing a contest entry. First of all, Pete's CDVinyl World, congratulations on getting to 200 subscribers. That's really awesome, a really great achievement. I'm really happy for you. You have a great channel, and I'll be putting a link in the description to his channel. So he had a contest in saying sort of thank you for getting to 200 subscribers, and he had out a list of questions. I have them written down there just so I don't forget a question on where I'm up to. And so this is my video in response to his 200 subs contest. So we'll get started. So first of all, seeing as this is for you, Pete, the opening question, and I've seen your video, but I always be honest with my music. I never intentionally slag off bands, or it's only if I'm asked will I tell you an actual band that I dislike. If someone would say, what's a band, or do you like this band, I'm always honest, I'll say I dislike, but I generally don't openly go out to say that I completely dislike a band without being prompted. All that being said, that's my disclaimer, because the opening question is an artist that most people like that you don't. Now, being a big heavy metal fan and growing up in the 70s as a little kid and getting my early roots of heavy metal, this may come as a bit of a shock to you all, but an artist that most people like that you don't, and people that know me well know exactly what I'm going to say, and that artist is Kiss. I have tried since I was a toddler. That music has been in my life, and I have tried in the 70s, the late 70s, when obviously the whole big craze was there. I was kind of in that target demographic. I was a young kid when I went to primary school, and I had Metallica and Iron Maiden and Judas Priest written on my school bag. Other kids would have Kiss lunchboxes, and they would ask me, why don't you have a Kiss lunchbox? But it's just one of those things. There are just certain bands that everyone seems to love, and it's a good question, I guess, in that way, and that you just don't get, and I really don't. I couldn't really even put down maybe one song. I quite like Detroit Rock City, and that's about it, really. There's really not much else. So there we go. Don't everybody switch off, because I'm just answering it honestly and how I see it. An artist that people would be surprised you like. Now, those who know me well will not be surprised by this. So even though I am heavy metal, and the whole metal world is definitely my favourite genre, along with prog, progressive rock, jazz and blues. I'm also have a pretty big love for pop music, especially well-made pop music, and being a kid all throughout the 80s and a young teen in the 80s, when pop music was really, really firing up, and some big names. This woman is one of my favourite solo artists of all time. Not my favourite, but she's sort of up there. I haven't liked much of her more recent stuff, sort of in the last 10 to 15 years. But up until that point, probably Confessions on a Dance Floor was probably the last album that I really loved. But up until that point, really one of my favourite artists, and I'm talking about Madonna. And I'm showing my True Blue. This is my 1986 original Australian press. So I bought this when it came out. I was already a pretty big fan by then. I was 12 when this came out, so you can imagine that this was kind of important to me at that stage in my life, and I love this album. It's my favourite album of hers, yeah, by a fair way, I think, but I still love all the other studio albums, as I said, up until Confessions of a Dance Floor, which I still quite liked. but this is my favourite by a mile. So many great songs. Papa Don't Preach, Open Your Heart. Live to Tell is probably my favourite Madonna song of all time. True Blue, La Isla Bonita is another great song. Just an absolutely brilliant album, full of hooks, full of great melodies. And I've always liked Madonna's voice. I know it's not always the most purest voice, but I always like, there's a bit of grit and a bit of deepness and a bit of power to it. She's really good. Maybe I guess it's because I love metal so much. She's kind of got that great power ballad type voice, which I really love. So there we go. Question number 2. Some would be surprised, but people that know me closely would not be surprised that I love this artist. Number 3. Live album that should have been a double. Okay, well, sorry, Pete, I can't show anything for this because I don't have many live albums. I don't have many compilations. The only compilations I kind of have are ones that are like a various hits and artists of the 80s type albums. I don't really have compilation albums, and I don't really have live albums. I tend to like studio albums and EPs. And I've got probably like 10 or 15 live albums, and most of those are double CDs. So I can't really say that any of them should have been longer. They were already pretty big and long. So that's about all I can really say. I thought about showing ZZ Top Fandango because side 1 of that is live. Perhaps that could have been a double with more live tracks of that period, but I thought, no, that's kind of cheating a little bit. Okay, number 4. Now, forgive me, I'll be quick, but I'm going to show a fair bit from this band. I love this band, and right from when I first heard them in the mid-80s, yes, they were very underground then in some ways, and they're a unique band in their sound. I've always thought this band should be a lot bigger than it is, way bigger than it is. They've had pretty decent success, but nothing that's really stratospheric. The biggest album they've had, and I had a bit of a look up before just to make sure, but the biggest album they've had, they've sold around 300,000 copies, and that's the biggest by a mile. The next few down are sort of about 100,000 copies, and then a fair bit lower. They've had a good resurgence in the last sort of 5 or 6 years. But I'm talking about the band Voivod. Now, this is one of my favourite metal bands of all time. That really quirky combination of thrash, technical thrash, progressive metal, a little bit of punk vibe to them, a little bit of death metal, not in the sound, but the attitude and the aggression. So what I'll do is I'll just show a bit of a quick through. There's their first demo, To the Death, Voivod. I love this band, as I say. I have no idea why they haven't become bigger. There's the next one, Voivod War and Pain. Brilliant album. Heavy, aggressive. That one's probably the punkiest. That one's probably got the most punk vibe to it. Then we've got Roar, Voivod, the second studio album. After that, probably my equal favourite Voivod album. I have sort of 3 that I can't separate. This one, this has got the song Forgotten in Space, which has got that ridiculously good riff, one of the best riffs in metal of all time. So there's Voivod, Killing Technology. And then the next one, we got Voivod, Dimension Hartros, also my equal favourite with Killing Technology. Brilliant album. Then we got Voivod, Nothing Face, my other equal favourites. Those 3 I can't really separate. So good. This one really stretched them out. Progressive, technical thrash. Brilliant with that cover, that great cover. The Pink Floyd cover. Astronomy Domine. Brilliant album. After that, you've got Angel Rat. This is probably their most commercially sounding album. did reasonably well. I think this is probably the second biggest after Nothing Face. Nothing Face is the biggest that sold 300,000. It's either this or Dimension Heartross, which is the next biggest. They're both about 100,000. So you can see there was some moderate success, pretty decent success, but for the amount of albums that they put out and the blending of the thrash, the progressive metal, and a little bit of punk, I really wish that they'd gotten a lot bigger. They're still going, they came back. Unfortunately, Piggy passed away quite a few years ago now, but they almost hung it up after that, but they decided to get it back going again. The Wake, which I'll show soon, which came out a couple of years ago, was absolutely one of the best and shows that they're still in full swing. Voivod, Negatron, brilliant album. Quite catchy, Negatron, actually. It gets lost in their collection a little bit. Self-titled album, which is actually good. I know there's the thing that if you release a self-titled album late in your career, it means you've run out of ideas, but I don't agree with that at all. This is still a brilliant album. Excellent, excellent album. And then I've got a bit of a gap. There's the next four I don't have. So if I can complete the whole list of their albums, I need those. And then this is the most recent one, Voivod, The Wake. Love this. Absolutely love this album. And of course, the song on here, Event Horizon, is a brilliant song. But yeah, anytime you name a song Event Horizon, you're instantly going to have me smiling at the start. But the song is awesome as well. So there we go. So Voivod definitely should have been a lot bigger, should be a lot bigger. I'm still amazed by the amount of really conscientious listening metalheads that either don't know Voivod, or even if they do, they maybe only know one song or just the logo, and that's about it. But the amount of bands that they've influenced, just incredible. All right, I better move it along. This will be a long video otherwise. You can see I'm passionate about Voivod. Number 5, band that was huge at one time, but for some reason is forgotten about. Now, I know this band is still going. They are still releasing albums, but one album in particular made it up to number 30 on the Billboard charts, sold 800,000 copies, and was pretty big, and they had some very smash singles. They were sort of a hard rock, industrial, slightly metal band from Cleveland, and I'm talking about the band Filter. Now, this was their massive selling album called Title of Record, and this had those big hits. It had that song that they did with the Crystal Method, Trip Like I Do, Take a Picture. I'm trying to remember, there was another big song, my favourite of theirs. Oh, Welcome to the Fold. That's right, that's the heavy song. Starts off with that big, massive, killer, heavy riff, probably the most metal song that they did. And this was big. They were really big. This came out in 1999. This was really big. Now, their other albums have sold reasonably well. You know, you're sort of talking in the 40 to 50,000, stuff like that. Most people probably don't even know that they're still going. I know Richard Patrick, for a while, when this album was doing really well, had some troubles. I remember there was a report when he got drunk on a plane and did some things, and then when they were trying to continue their success, I know he went into rehab, and that sort of stalled things. But you know, they're still going, and they're going strong. He's still with them, and they're still going pretty well. But they were huge when this album came out. They were huge, and as I say, most people probably don't even know they're still going. Right, number 6, show a great live DVD or Blu-ray. Well, I've got a few over there. I don't know if you can see. I've probably got about 30 or 40 live DVD Blu-rays. There's a lot that I love. I mean, I think that's why I don't go for live albums or records, because if it's going to be something live, I figure I may as well watch it while I'm listening to it. So I think that's why I go for more the live DVD and Blu-ray, or the old. I've got lots of old live VHS tapes, and that's why I go for them over the live albums. Now, this is one of my favourites. I've got a few favourites, but this is probably my favourite overall, Rush R30. This is on Blu-ray. This came out quite a bit after the DVD. This came out in 2013, which is, I think the original DVD came out like 2006 or 2007, I might be wrong. This is of the great R30 to it. I love this DVD, Blu-ray DVD. The sound is magnificent, as you'd expect on a Blu-ray. The picture quality is stunning, and the set list is huge, absolutely huge, and just pretty much all of my favourite Rush songs are on here as well. Probably my most watched live Blu-ray DVD. Number 7, an album with a guitar on the cover. Got heaps. So I tried not to go for ones that everyone has seen before. I thought I'd show this one. Can you see the guitar there coming down into the water? There. Now, this is a band from Sydney, Australia. I saw them many times back in the early 90s. They were very much part of the big festival circuit. And they would quite often come over on their own shows over to Perth, Western Australia. Def Effects. Now they released 4 EPs before this one. This is actually the first studio full length. A band that mixes sort of industrial metal, groove metal, and then techno as well. Techno music, dance. The closest I can think of is KMFDM. That's about the closest band I can think of. The main difference with this is Fiona Horn does most of the vocals. And the songs probably have a little bit more of a traditional structure. But an outstanding band. Fiona Horn was actually she classified herself as a witch. A good witch, but she did actually classify herself as a witch. Great, she's a good surfer as well. Very, very good surfer. I've had some good conversations with her. But a great band. This is an outstanding album. Def Effects Baptism. This came out in 1993. This is actually a double album. So one disc of the CD is all the studio songs, and the other disc is live recordings. Brilliant stuff. They are still going, by the way. I know they did get back together about 1.5 or 2 years ago, and they did a couple of reunion shows. But they had their main run was between 1990 and 1997. That was their main run. Right, so, boy, this seems to be a video where, if I'm not careful, I'm gonna upset a mainstream of people, because the next question, number 8, an overrated album. Now, with all music and all things, everything's time related, everything's perspective, when you heard something, where you were in your musical journey, where you heard something. And by the time this band and album came out, I was a pretty big metalhead. I'd been listening to metal for a lot, at least, well, it had been in my conscience at least for about 10 years. And I'd been actually listening and buying metal albums for about 6 or 7 years before this came out. And yeah, this band, for me, they were just always just okay. I wouldn't turn them off, and I did buy their albums because I thought, I'll just get it. You know, they're obviously a big band. It's a good something to have in your collection as a bit of a memento of a moment in time. But I think this album is just okay, and it's one of the most raved about albums of all time. And I'm talking about this, Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. I'm so sorry if you love this album, I really am, and it's completely okay. We are all different, we all hear things differently. Music and art is subjective. I don't dislike this album, but it's just okay. It's just a very okay album, like all of their stuff. And I bought it, I listened to it, it was on, I was, 13, 14 when this came out, 13. you know, every disco, every party I went to, every sort of teenage thing, every hangout, this album was kind of on. So I didn't really love it that much. I thought it was just okay. And then I had the overplay factor that came through that ruined any chance of it at all. So it was just always there. And at that stage, I was going deeper and darker and heavier. I was discovering early death metal and more extreme metal. So this for me, yeah. But anyway, as I say, I know lots of people love it, but the question was an overrated album, and I think this is incredibly overrated. Your favourite bootleg? I've only got one CD it's just put on as unofficial. Whether it's a bootleg or not, I don't know. But I've got a few DVDs that are, and so I thought I'd show this one. This is Vader, Night of the Apocalypse. This is a 2004 DVD. I got this in Jakarta, Indonesia. I'm pretty sure I got this 2011 at one of their big markets that they have. But it's good quality, it's great quality. Absolutely love this band, Vader. I've shown them quite a few times before. Brilliant Polish death metal band. So there you go, bootleg DVD, Vader, Night of the Apocalypse. And what have we got? Number 10, an album you were surprised doesn't sound great. Now, those who know me know that Rush is one of my favourite bands of all time. They're probably my favourite non-metal band of all time. I'm pretty sure they are. I love everything they've done. I've got this album on CD, and this is possibly just my copy. So the last question is, an album you were surprised doesn't sound great. So this is a reissue. This is a 2015 reissue, and it's Rush Moving Pictures. Now, don't get me wrong, this album normally is spectacular sounding. I have it on CD and it is brilliant. Just one of the greatest prog albums or just albums ever made of all time, in my opinion. But I bought this album, as I say, 2015 reissue. I bought it pretty much then. I always wanted it on record. I've got everything Rush has done on CD, but I thought, this is one of my favourites, so I'll get this on vinyl as well. Out of the shrink, straight, never been touched, whatever. Put it on. The sound is muddy. There's popping and cracking all over the place. Just terrible. You have to turn it up. So it's probably just my copy. So if anyone's got a similar one, this is a 2015 reissue. I think this is the one, where they say it's Europe International and it gets sent all around the world. There's normally like a US pressing, and then there's like a Europe International copy. So mine is the Europe International copy. So I don't know if anyone else had the same problem or if it's just mine. I put on another record straight away afterwards, making sure that everything was okay with my system and everything was fine. So damn shame. So if I see another one of these come along, I will definitely buy it, because this is almost unplayable, almost unlistenable, which is a very damn shame, because I love this album very dearly. So that is my entry. Pete's CDVinyl World, 200 subscribers. Congratulations, very well done. Please watch his channel, subscribe to it. I'd really love it if you did that. And this is my contest entry for that. So hope you enjoyed the video. Really appreciate you watching. Catch you soon.